So just to let everybody know, we will be doing Q&A at the end of the webinar. So there's a unique Q&R or question feature on your Zoom, and you can use that to submit questions at any time in the webinar, and then we'll handle them all at the end. And also, if you have questions that we didn't have time to answer, or if you find anything, like particularly interesting that you want to talk about, you can also feel free to contact us after the webinar as well, because I'm not sure if we will have time to get to everybody's questions. So let's get started. Min, do you mind going to the next slide? So this is, as you know, we're Daxue Consulting. You may know us for our work on the Chinese market, which is what we're most famous for, but also we do market research and strategy consulting elsewhere in Asia as well, especially Korea is a big target country of ours. Our mission is to guide businesses to holistic growth in Asia through market research and strategy and consulting. We equip businesses with the knowledge and guidance to achieve growth in China and beyond. And so that's kind of who we are. And if you're new to us, we are your market research and consulting firm for China, Korea, and elsewhere in Asia. And so our services can be broken down into 4 pillars: management consulting, market research, marketing consulting, and branding. And these are some of the services that we provide within those pillars, but we actually do a lot more. So you can learn more about our services on our website, but it's basically anything to help businesses convert their consumers in Korea and China or any other countries that they're focused on in Asia. And so, yeah, that's also one thing you might have seen, is that we also share a lot of public insights as well. We believe that knowledge is meant to be shared, and so that's why you see a lot of content that we share online, and also this webinar where we're just sharing free insights with everybody. I'll introduce myself first. As you know, I'm Allison. I'm the marketing director. Also, like I mentioned, the public research director. So basically anything you see about Daxue Consulting online and any of our work that we do, including our Korea reports that you might have downloaded, our F&B report, our K-beauty report. I oversaw all of that work, and then also with our China region as well. And so that's a little bit about me. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from the US. And if you're really familiar with the US, you can tell I'm from the Midwest. Graduated from the University of Minnesota and then started my career in Shanghai with Daxue Consulting around 5 years ago. And I'll let Min introduce himself, and then we'll get onto the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Allison. So hi everyone, once again, my name is Min from Korea. I have about 12 years of professional experience. I worked in Korea, Hong Kong, Shanghai, worked a bit in Australia as well. For market research field, I have about 8 years experience. I've studied quite internationally, let's say. I studied a bit in the States, in Australia, in Korea, in Hong Kong, and I've work experience in those countries as well. So when it comes to different industries, dealing with different cultures, I would say I have a strong background there. And also in terms of at our company, I've dealt with a lot of international clients, helping with their market research and entry strategies in both B2B and B2C. And of course, with my Korean background, today I'll be the main presenter for today's presentation. All right. I'll get started with today's agenda. I'll be overseeing, firstly, the Korea's consumer demographics, societal trends, followed up by digital trends, retail trends, and up to K-beauty trends. Allison will be following up with the food and beverage trends, travel trends. And then lastly, I'll come back to some of the case studies that we completed in the Korean market. And lastly, will be the Q&A session. Yes, yeah, guys, feel free to drop any questions throughout the presentation, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end. So our first slide here, some of you may know already, but South Korea has the lowest fertility rate in the world. What does it mean? People are no, and also interestingly, Korea is also one of the fastest aging populations. Also, why? Because we have very low mortality rates. So meaning people are living longer while younger couples are no longer making babies. Why is there this phenomenon? I'll pick two main reasons. Firstly, money. I mean, because basically the housing market has been overheated. It's too expensive for anybody to purchase a house now. And also raising a kid has become a big issue in Korea, mainly due to money. And secondly, and most importantly, it's all about the opportunity. And what I mean by opportunity is for the woman. Basically what it is that when women have a baby, they need to make a choice between whether having a career, meaning continuing the career, or keeping a family. Because it's very common once women has a baby, they cannot come back to work. Even for big companies, once they have a baby, most of the companies will, once they come back, they'll be relocating to different departments and so on. So nowadays, most women, they don't want to sacrifice careers. So now that's why no longer people are, even they're getting married, they no longer want to have babies. Here's a brief introduction about the Korean population, some geography, and currently Korea is about 52 million in terms of population. If you put that into comparison, if you combine Shanghai and Beijing, I would say that's about almost near to the population of Korea. And Korea is also very densely populated. And you can see the big cities are located in the northwest, basically Seoul, Incheon, this is the Gyeonggi province, and in Busan. Now, on this slide, I'd like to focus a bit on the GDP per capita. Basically, when we look at GDP per capita, we always compare with Japan. I mean, some of you may know, Korea, we do have some rivalry between Japan. And both countries are definitely far below US and much of Europe, but Korea has been catching up a lot, while Japan is falling a bit behind. So it's estimated that within the next 4 to 5 years, Korea will be ahead of Japan. So it's a big milestone for us, for Koreans. In terms of income inequality, it does still vary by gender and company size. So generally speaking, males get paid a bit more than women. And most people after graduating, they do want to go for the big companies. So large companies in Korea are, you probably know, like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Lotte, SK, all these big companies. That's where the money is. When it comes to South Korea's economy, it's mostly driven by tech and industry. In the slide before, you probably noticed that many of the Koreans were populated in Seoul and Incheon area. So that's the only part of the Korea where it's mostly flat. You can see on the agriculture, 14% of the country land is arable. So basically, agriculture is weak in Korea. Most of the distribution of GDP is coming from industry and service. So as I mentioned before, like big companies like Samsung, Hyundai. So Samsung doesn't only make electronic goods. Samsung does everything in Korea. So meaning, if you know Samsung Electronics, it's one of the top 5 companies when it comes to semiconductors. And when it comes to shipbuilding, Samsung Industries is also very big, the Hyundai Industries. This particular slide, I like to spend a bit more time because when you're in Korea, whether you're talking to your friends, your coworkers, your professor, anybody within your family, MZ generation is in everyone's mouth. So why is this so important? From the brand's perspective, this is the target audience that every brand wants to capture, whether you're a startup or big player. What is very unique about this generation on these on this 8 infographics, I like to highlight 5 things. So firstly, they're digitally fluent. So they're young people. Any new tech savvy things, they'll be catching up to it and learning it very quickly. And from the companies and brands perspective, the 4 icons here I like to highlight. So firstly, these people, as I mentioned before, like they don't really want to get married, right? They are what we call like the YOLO people. So they are willing to spend money for themselves. They desire more than ever for premium and luxury products. And while they're looking for this, they are no longer looking for the typical luxury brands that can cater to everyone. They're looking for brands that can be transparent and have authenticity. And also they prefer brands that can mirror their values and cater to their preferences. So they like brands who like to communicate, who like to listen to the audience. Now up to the Korea societal trends. So if you're a fan of Korea, probably you became a fan through these 3 major elements. So K-dramas, K-pop, and K-beauty. So basically all within the entertainment area. So this, what we call Hallyu, is a direct translation for Korean wave. And it actually started like in 1990s. First, the wave started going to East Asia, mostly Hong Kong and Japan. And then it went to Southeast Asia and now South Asia. So before it was a more regional thing, more Asian thing. But lately, due to the growing, like OTT platforms like Netflix, YouTube, so the trend has gone global. Now everyone has access to it. And this is a bit different from if any of the audience here are Chinese today, you probably heard about Guochao marketing, where in China, it's more about Chinese brands China as a country trying to promote Chinese brands. But what's unique about Hallyu is that it's a bit more organic, and what we call it more of a forced export of Korean contents. So I mentioned before the MZ generation, low fertility rate, low mortality rate. So the family structure has changed a bit lately, and also gender roles. Basically, before where women did most of the household roles, household chores, now men are doing way more than before. Here, the data is a bit old. It's from 2015. That male do only 16% of the housework. But I'll say personally, I do like, let's say 40% of the housework. And also here, some of the trends that Allison would cover later in the F&B topic, but because of the household has been minimalized. So now it's mostly single and 2-person households. So basically not many people are doing groceries or cooking. So many of them are buying these ready-to-cook meals. Or here, it's basically what we call banchan, side dishes. So I think this is also a global trend. We observe this in China market as well. Healthy pleasure is in trend and also among the MZ generation. So I want to say this is very Korea specific, but also a global trend. So no longer health is pain, health means pleasure. And here you can see some of the some top KOL, KOCs that brands are leveraging when it comes to this industry segment. And this slide I personally like. As you can see, there are a lot of pretty cute young women here. But basically, the traditional definition of being a woman still remains in Korea, but is slowly fading. So basically, when it comes to Korean brands, when they select brand ambassadors or advertisements or their main KOLs, on your left-hand side is the dues. Basically, if you know IU, is on the far left-hand side. She's the global ambassador for Gucci and also New Balance, the shoe wear. And also, she does other categories as well, like alcohol brand, jewelry brands, bank, finance, and everything else. While the ladies on the right are more, let's say, the less what we call the very typical conservative characteristics. And also, not many brands collaborate with these type of women in Korea. Now, digital trends. So if you're aware of the Korean digital ecosystem, I would say Korea is the very unique country where most of the digital ecosystem has been developed by locally. So you can see most of the apps within these categories. Not many of them are international. So the top apps within all these categories, food delivery, travel, transport, music, social media, you can see that they're all Korean apps. If you come across any Koreans and ask them, can I see what apps you have on your phone? You'll definitely come across all these apps. On this particular slide, I'd like to highlight KakaoTalk. So some of you may know, this is the monopoly or the dominant player in Korea. So first they started as a startup, obviously, in Korea. Now they're renowned as the messenger app. I told you guys before, Korea is about 52 million in terms of population, and it has 47 million users. So that's about 95% penetration. If you compare that to WeChat, WeChat is even though many Chinese people use it, it's about, in my understanding, it's about 80 to 85% penetration. So you could say this is the app to go when it comes to Korean nations. What's also unique is that it's more than a messenger app. So it has a subordinaries such as media platform, games, fintech, taxi, commerce, and so on and so on. Oh, also something interesting. KakaoTalk recently had a big disaster in Korea. They had one of the key data center had a big fire, and basically the messenger app was shut down for 12 hours. And this was a big issue. Even the president of Korea was saying, what if North Korea attacked us during this period? And basically, a lot of people actually left KakaoTalk and they went to use Telegram or Line and so on and so on. So something for KakaoTalk to think about, that they need to back up their data. This slide I personally like because I think what makes Korea unique is that it could be a innovation hub. So basically our R&D center or a learning place for to better understand what could happen into the rest of the world or even rest of Asia. So this is a very, very good case study where you can see these are some of the top TV shows, and some has been acquired. Has been acquired by the China media. They purchased the copyright, and some haven't. Embedded marketing in Korea, we call it PPL. It's a short for product placement. It's also very big in Korea. every brand, whether they're F&B, fashion, beauty, they try to do this. They try to promote their brands through product placement. So what it is that Korea has very strict, stringent broadcasting laws. So meaning there are no commercials in between the shows. So meaning that brands, they have to promote their product within the shows. So whether it's a K-drama or entertainment series, they would promote their products within the shows. So it's quite unnatural. It kind of stops the flow of the drama or whatever you're watching, but still brands do it. And a lot of Korean viewers, they accept it now. They're immune to it. Influencer marketing, we started a bit slow. So of course, I think China is the first country to really excel on this, but now we're catching up. KOL, KOCs is also a term in Korea we use, but basically different platforms. So Korean KOL, KOCs, celebrities usually post on Instagram and YouTube. So if you're a brand, two things you must do in Korea: KOL marketing, KOC marketing, and product placement. Now we're getting more to the fun part, retail trends. So I told you guys before, KakaoTalk is more than just a messenger app. So the mobile commerce industry has exploded mostly in the gifting scene. So KakaoTalk is a big player when it comes to gifting. Why it's such a dominant player? Because it's very flawless when it comes to integration. So you can, when you're on your messenger app, when you go to your friend list, it'll alert you, it's your friend's birthday. Then you can go to the gifting platform, purchase gift, and then send it to them by the messenger platform. So it's very fast, very unique. So I mentioned before, as Korea is very localized, you probably noticed that when it comes to e-commerce platforms, marketplaces, the logos here, some of you may know, it's basically all Korean. I think 11th Street, they recently collaborated with Amazon to do cross-border e-commerce. Otherwise, most of them are all local. Some of you are Chinese audience here, Coupang is, I would say, the equivalent of Jingdong, JD platform. They do almost same day or next day delivery. Naver is the Google of South Korea, but once again, they do more than that. They also have mobile commerce as well as gifting commerce. Fashion brands, what we call IP collaboration or collaboration marketing. So of course, this it's also a global thing, happens a lot in China, but Koreans are also quite creative. So it doesn't happen just between the same industry, but it happens a lot in cross industries as well. And here, it's also a fun topic. Well, in Korea, we call this fansumers, or in Korea, we call it, in Korean, I'll say consumer. So basically what it is that it's a bit of viral marketing that they are kind of reviving old brands. So if you see this brand here on the left-hand side, this is a flower brand. And they turn this into basically a total brand. So they are doing fashion, FMCG, F&B, and it went quite big in Korea because everyone find the brand, the logo cute, and they will try to see. They were curious to try it. But some brands have backlashes, as you can see on the right-hand side. It's a stationery brand, is a black ink, and they turned it into a sparkling drink. So you can see what could be the obvious downside. And Koreans are also very into what we call tuktemyeon. So it's in English, it's gacha power. So Koreans go crazy when it comes to limited items, limited edition, exclusive items. So very good player that does as well is Starbucks. When it comes to merchandising, promoting new items, Koreans go crazy. So they would do like pre-runs, open runs to purchase items. That has nothing to do with coffee. Live commerce is also one of the main advertising commerce platform that had the biggest explosive growth lately. So once again, we're a bit slow. We're catching up to China, because any of Chinese audience here, you probably know KOL, KOC, live commerce is a big thing in China, but Korea, it had just started. Some of the big categories that are fashion, beauty, F&B, and even luxury brands started using this platform lately as well. So if any of you are into fashion, you may have noticed when you visit Korea, or if you see some of Koreans, that some of them are wearing these brands. So what's unique is that they have nothing to do with fashion, but Korean fashion companies purchases their license and basically turns into a fashion brand. It's a growing trend within Korean fashion industry. More and more Korean companies, fashion companies, are looking to purchase logos. I heard from some insiders, the next big thing will be the metro sign from UK, from England. So Koreans are creative. They want to find catchy, trendy logos that everyone recognizes and turn into a fashion brand. Now, this may be the main topic that maybe some of you may have registered for today's session, K-beauty trends. So as you may know, Korea's beauty market, so cosmetics, skincare, and so on, is one of top 10 in the world. Why is it very unique? Korean K-beauty is renowned for three things, I would say. Firstly, innovation. Secondly, gentle ingredients. And third, packaging. When it comes to the segmentation of K-beauty, around 51% is in skincare, 20% is color cosmetics, and 13% in hair care, and 4% in fragrance. So if you came across, if you've ever visited Korea, or if you have Korean friends, you probably noticed that Koreans generally don't wear that heavy makeup. So what is unique about Korean is that the Korean beauty standard is all about the natural look and pale skin. So it's quite contradictory that Koreans do wear a lot of makeup, but the main idea is to conceal its usage. Also, the Korean beauty standard, you gotta know two lines. So we call V line and S line. So you can guess V line is having a sharp, small face, sharp chin, and S line is having a curvy body. And as a result of these beauty standards, most of Korean brands, they know what Korean consumers want. So they emphasize a lot on long-term skin health and having the natural look. So within the audience, if you know about the K-beauty, you probably heard of the famous 10-step skincare routine. So this has been like a marketing term used by brands a long time ago, but I'll say this is definitely outdated. Now the trend is minimalism. So in Korea, the new phrase we like to use, instead of skincare, we use skip care. So skip care meaning using the minimum routines. So here you have like 10-step routine, right? But I would say this is almost like a celebrities routine. Basically, anybody would be using three things mainly. In Korea, we call it skin lotion essence. So within this routine, I'll call that cleanser, toner, essence, and serum. K-beauty brands has reached to the whole of the world organically, thanks to some of our big celebrities. So if you're into K-pop, you probably know BTS, Tiffany, she's from Girls' Generation, pretty old girl group, and Jung Ho-yeon, She got very popular recently from the Squid Games, if you saw it on Netflix. And she's also the global ambassador for LV, Louis Vuitton. This particular slide, I'd like to spend a bit more time. So if you visit Korea now, if you visit any cosmetic stores, if you visit any department stores, shopping malls, select shop stores, the keyword now in Korea is vegan, 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 vegan. As I mentioned before, Koreans like minimalistic look, gentle ingredients. So a brand that's doing unique, exceptionally well is Innisfree. Innisfree is a brand from Amore Pacific. What is very unique about them, the main value proposition is that all of their ingredients are sourced from the Jeju Island. So Jeju Island is a small island at the bottom of the Korean peninsula. And this has been emphasized throughout their entire marketing, and they never change. So also the latest trend is that not just the traditional cosmetic companies are jumping into this scene, also fashion companies. So traditional fashion companies like Shinsegae International, these companies have recently jumped into the cosmetic scene as well. So what are they doing is that they are sourcing indie brands, local Korean brands, also sourcing from global as well, from France or from the States. And also the latest trend is that instead of these flagship stores, the trending scene is what we call 편집 shop, is a translation for select store. So you could think of a equivalent to Sephora. You know, they carry many brands, right? But Korea, they have their own brands. So for instance, Hyundai department store, they created a select store called Be Clean. And it's not about just selling products, but also giving experience to the consumers. So once again, similar to the digital ecosystem, K-beauty is basically the most market share is coming from domestic beauty brands. So Amore Pacific, you guys probably most of you guys know heard of. So those some of the brands they carry are Solvasu, Laneige, Mamon, Innisfree, Etude House. LG Household, they carry some big brands you may know are like Physiogel, The Face Shop, and History of Who. So LG and Amore Pacific, they do about 9 billion USD. And I think they did about 9 billion USD revenue in like 2020. Some notable companies also are Colmar and Cosmex. So they are the leading, what we call OEM and ODM companies, so filling companies. So although domestic brands are thriving in Korea, also European brands still cannot be ignored. They're always considered as the most reliable and most prestigious among Koreans. So some top brands could be are the L'Oreal, Dior, YSL, Jo Malone, Clarins, and most of these shopping experience takes place in department stores. So always the lobby, first floor, a hotel or duty-free stores. So this is a secondary report, a survey done by the Korean Broadcasting Corporation, and you can see the recognizable brands here are all Korean. I'll say the only two outliers are SK-II from Japan and Chanel. This slide, so showing how other how brands are leveraging PPL, product placement, and if you know the K-beauty well, Kahi is one of the most trending brand in Korea. So it's a multi-balm, what they call it multi-balm, and it can be applied anywhere on your face. And they did very aggressive product placement marketing. First, people were quite annoyed with it because they appeared on every dramas, every shows. But since they did it and they did very good marketing, they emphasized on the effect and the efficacy, and people bought it. Usually the people that actually purchased a lot of these items were a bit older generations, like 40s and 50s. But it's a brand that did very successful in this PPL marketing. So as I mentioned before, ecosystem is also digital ecosystem is very localized. So these brands, you can see some of the top brands in Korea always leverage local platforms. So it's not having international YouTube or Facebook channel, but actually having the local Korean channel. And Kakao Talk, Kakao channel is a must-have for brands if you want to communicate with the clients, with the customers. And finally, this is my final slide on my side, Hwahae. If you're into the K-beauty industry, this is the app that you must know. So it's a user-driven database and forum for rating cosmetics. All brands leverage it. All Korean women has this app on the phone. So they can leave their comments about different ingredients, about different products. And some brands actually leverage it to get the badge of approval as a selling point. Okay, so that was from my side. Now I pass the mic to Allison. She'll carry on the webinar on the F&B trends.
Yes, thank you so much for presenting, Min. As always, it's very insightful. And I did see one quick question on whether we're going to be sharing the slides after the webinar, and the answer is yes, we will be sharing the slides. So Min, can you confirm that my screen is being shared correctly?
Yes, can see.
Great. So I'm going to talk about the food and beverage trends for Korea, and then I'll do a little bit on the travel trends, two of my favorite topics. So some of the top food in Korea is kind of obvious, you know, like kimchi and seaweed and rice, which are native to Korea. However, one rising star in the food and beverage market that we're going to go a little bit more in depth on is coffee. Recently, Korea has gone crazy for coffee to the extent that it's almost becoming like a symbol of Korean food culture with songs about it and a big role in like Korean dramas and everything. So Korea's coffee market is quite, it's getting quite saturated. On average, a Korean person will drink over 12 cups of coffee a week, which is on par with much of Europe. So it is quite a lot for an Asian country, which we might not always associate with coffee drinking. And so because the market is quite saturated, coffee shops have to come up with different ways to stand out. And three of those ways are, one, coffee shops are positioning themselves as like a hangout spot or like a space that is a third space away from home, away from school, and away from work. And Starbucks is a good example of this. They're kind of a space seller because work and school life is quite intense. And then also sometimes like for college students or for teenagers, it might not be appropriate to bring like a date or something home. And so it's kind of become a spot for meetups. Second is the instant coffee market, which actually takes up 59% of the coffee market. So for instant coffee in Korea, it's pretty big. It's kind of fueling the need for like convenient coffee because, you know, a lot of Korean workers working long hours and also studying long hours. And so this is like the more affordable solution for coffee in Korea. And as you can see, Min mentioned earlier, IU, an example of the quintessential feminine Korean idol. She's also one of the brand ambassadors of Maxim. And lastly, there's the third type of coffee shop, which is like the novelty one or the experience one. And so these coffee shops, they're also satisfy the need for a third space, but plus something else. So oftentimes there's things like pet cafes where you can play with dogs or cats in the cafe. And even in one famous pet cafe, you can hang out with raccoons. Also, some of these coffee shops are situated in very beautiful parts of Korea, like overseeing the sea on Jeju with like a perfect view, or in some of the traditional areas, even ones where you can get really cozy, take off your shoes and lay on big beanbag chairs. And so coffee shops are really a fun place to hang out, and they mean so much more than just coffee in Korea. So this is one case study, is Starbucks for the coffee market. Starbucks is a very unique case because it's a brand that in their Korea strategy, any industry can really learn from. Because one of those tactics that they use is they release these products that are highly anticipated and collectible. And like Min mentioned earlier, they oftentimes have absolutely nothing to do with coffee. But yet the brand of Starbucks has created such an image and such an anticipation for these products and such a fandom around the brand that now people anticipate these releases and will line up to collect them. Also with Starbucks is their localization strategy. So Starbucks also has a strategic partner in Korea, Shinsegae, and so they kind of like work with the local partner to come up with some of their strategy and localize very effectively while maintaining their image. But similar to Innisfree, which is a K-beauty brand that we mentioned earlier that uses all of the ingredients from Jeju Island to make their products, Starbucks actually has some drinks that kind of do the same thing. So there's some commonalities here. And, like this is something that really helps them localize while creating lots of fun flavors. And another thing is, as convenience is a big fueler for the coffee market and a big factor in the F&B industry, Starbucks has come up with a siren order system where customers can order their drinks within a 2-kilometer radius, and then they can pay in advance, and then they can just pick it up at the drive-through. And I think other than Korea is the only other country that I've personally seen drive-throughs outside of the US. So I think that's pretty interesting too, that it's something to note, and also like on the note of convenience as well. And so now we're going to talk a little bit more about the food culture in Korea. There's kind of a balance between cooking at home versus going out. And so the older the consumer is, they're more likely to cook at home. And some of the key elements of Korean food is, of course, kimchi, which we all know, and guk, which is stew, bap, rice. And because of Korea's like long cold winters, they ferment more than just kimchi. Fermenting is a big part of the Korean diet. And also vegetables are a big part of the Korean diet, along with fish, with a little bit lower consumption of red meat. So one thing that's really unique about the Korean market for food is that they have like these ready to eat meal boxes that you can buy them and then take them home, and you just do a minimal amount of preparation. And that's something that's very popular recently, again, for convenience reasons, and also because with more women in the workplace, there's no one at home to prepare food. And so another big booming market in Korea is food delivery. Because the pandemic, a lot of people were ordering food in, which is expected. However, there was so much demand that it was very challenging for companies to meet this, and it became very competitive. And so what happened is that there was a shortage of delivery drivers, an increase in labor costs, and the margins were very small. If you look at any Korean person's phone for food delivery, you will see these 3 apps, Baedon Minjok, Coupang Eats, and Yogiyo. So these are the top food delivery apps. And then also a lot of chains will have their own food delivery system, like McDonald's and Burger King and Domino's Pizza. And so this is some trends that are changing is that many people are eating at home alone, which is also fueling like the take at home food box market. And so, yeah, a lot of people will go to convenience stores and get snack food, and basically convenience and processed food are a big part of the market. So one interesting trend that came out of Korea is mukbang. And this is a trend that started in 2014. Basically what it is is it's somebody live streaming or recording videos of them eating food. And it is often combined with something like storytelling, or sometimes it's combined with nothing at all, just watching them eat a bunch of delicious food. It's an opportunity for brands to, collaborate with these types of influencers, but people watch them for many different reasons. Some people will watch them because they're eating alone at home and they want somebody to keep them company, or for ASMR reasons, if they like the sounds of eating. And this trend also took off in China, where it kind of caused some controversy because it was perceived as promoting food waste because these people really eat a massive amount of food. And yeah, we won't go too much in depth on China because this is on Korea. So Korea, unsurprisingly, is a really big consumer of seafood. So as you know, Korea is a peninsula, and then to the north of South Korea is North Korea. However, economically, it is kind of just a blank space. So from an economic perspective, South Korea really functions as an island. And so it's no surprise that seafood is really significant to the country. And Korea's seafood consumption is very high, 55 to 70 kilograms per capita per year. And so now we'll talk a little bit about Korea's drinking culture, which is pretty significant. So Korea actually has the highest alcohol consumption in Asia after Laos, at about 10 liters of pure alcohol per person per year. And one key word that you want to know if you're in the alcohol business or anything related is 회식. So 회식 is when people gather after work and have drinks together with their colleagues. So one thing you'll notice if you go to Korea, especially like in the evening or after work hours, is you'll see a lot of the people at bars and restaurants are drinking together with colleagues, like they're still in their work clothes. They may be like with their boss, and then they will jump from restaurant to bar to KTV, many rounds. And so it's a big part of the drinking culture. And another big part of the drinking culture is that hierarchy plays an important role in it. So that's often related to work drinks. So like the boss might offer drinks to the workers, and when people accept drinks, they have to accept it with both hands. And then if you're the younger person or the person of a lower status, you have to turn away and drink it not facing the boss. And then also it's not appropriate in some occasions to pour alcohol for oneself. Another key word related to drinking is somek. So soju, so is from soju, which is Korea's local alcohol. Mek is from mekju, which is beer. And Koreans will often combine these into a drink. And so that's one thing that we're going to learn in this presentation, is a lot of that Koreans like to make their own words a lot, including like somek from soju and mekju. Another one is chimek from chicken and mekju. So this is what's called an anju. So anju are snacks that you will eat when drinking alcohol, and there's a wide variety of them. Like I mentioned, jimek, so that's chicken, is often paired with beer. The top anju is pork belly. And so basically whenever there's drinking, there's also eating. And so this is something that snack and food companies have to pay attention to in Korea, is that one of the biggest occasions of eating snacks is when drinking. Also, people will eat and drink at what's called pojangmaja, which are like small tents in the street. So like everywhere else in the world, the vegan and vegetarianism is on the rise in Korea. However, it is still quite low overall, but that doesn't mean that there's a lot of room for plant-based protein brands to enter the Korean market, because even though the amount of vegans in Korea is low, the amount of people who are willing to try vegan meat, or even willing to have it like on a weekly basis, is actually quite high. So a lot of people, like elderly, would prefer it or prefer to like have some plant-based meals using plant-based meat because for them it's easier to digest. And also parents will give it to their kids as a way to get them more vegetables. So some of the drivers to veganism in Korea is for health, animal rights, environmental concerns, and weight loss. And then also there's some K-pop idols and celebrities that are sharing their vegetarian or vegan lifestyles on social media. And like Min mentioned earlier, some of the beauty standards in Korea is that they should be thin. So after Japan, Korea has the second lowest obesity rate. And because the beauty standards are so strict on being thin, Korea has a robust diet culture. In fact, in an outside survey of nearly 1,300 people, 7 out of 10 people said that they've dieted within the last year. And the most likely to go on a diet are young women in their 20s and 30s, and also young men. And so on the right, we can see an example of a Korean idol sharing her lunch or her food when she's on a diet. One thing you might notice is that it's very high in sweet potatoes, having them twice a day. And then also it's low in fat. So these are some of the diet trends in Korea. Also fitness, yoga, and Pilates, anything dealing with wellness is also on the trend. Health is in, it's not seen as something that's pain, it's seen as something that's pleasurable. So on the exact opposite note of dieting is street food. So Korea is very famous for its street food. Some of them are tteokbokki or eungmuk that you can get on the street, and it's also very, very cheap to purchase. Recently, the food trucks have been legalized. So what that means is now people can start selling instead of opening a restaurant which has a high capital cost, they can just have a food truck and sell food from there. And oftentimes these food trucks have themes or have some sort of like unusual offering, something to remember. Korea's street food is pretty world famous. It's also has been featured in things like Netflix shows, and yeah, so it's very significant part of the eating culture. So here's a little bit about the snack market in Korea. So it's a very big and rising market, catering towards all ages, all the way from drinking snacks like anju, all the way to children's snacks. And the flavors are very different. So there's very sweet, there's salty, there's healthy, and we'll talk a little bit more about them here. So the first thing is some key trends that are happening right now is that sweet potatoes are in. As you saw from the K-pop idol Suji's diet on the previous couple of slides, she ate 3 sweet potatoes a day. They're also trending in snacks. And so something to note here is that for snack brands entering the market, it's really worth for them to do social listening, because some of these trends can change pretty fast. You know, like a couple years ago, there was a they'll go to coffee trend that comes and goes very fast. And so it's very important to stay on top of social media when it comes to snack and food culture. Some other trends are the textures being chewy and crispy, and then also the traditional snack. And oftentimes something that's also unique in Korea, as you can see, there's the banana gwaja, banana snack. Banana is actually quite a popular flavor. So I've even seen like banana alcohol is quite popular. That's banana mukgori, so that's another type of local alcohol. And then also banana yogurt is quite popular as well. So the fourth trend is healthy snacks. And then lastly, there's homsul snacks. So homsul is when you're drinking at home. So these are basically anju for at home. And different age groups have different preferences in snacks. So teenagers like to follow the trends. There's a term for that, insa. So that's like insiders of a group. And these people, they like I mentioned earlier, they're very keen on trends. And so It's very important to frequently conduct research to understand what's in, and then also things that are like easy to carry for them. Sweet potatoes, as I mentioned, are trending for 30 to 40-year-olds. 20s most likely to diet, and then people over 50, they prefer sweet and salty snacks. And as diet culture in Korea is very strong, some of the other trends when it comes to healthy snacks are low calorie, low sugar, and high protein. And so there's a lot of products in Korea that have like artificial sweeteners instead of sugar, and also a lot of companies will advertise like the amount of protein in the product on the packaging. So next I'm going to cover some travel trends, and this will be a bit shorter than the other sections, and then we'll be wrapping it up. So here are some of the travel trends as of recent. So between 2020 and 2021, some of the rising trends are traveling with pets, traveling with children, and traveling alone. So going with pets, people will often go to Instagrammable places where they can take pictures. And another trend with pets that I might have mentioned earlier is the pet cafe, which is very big in Korea as well. We can take pictures with, like Shibas or oftentimes like different animals. As for traveling alone, a lot of people will go more on like natural scenery, so hiking or even just going on a drive, going to, again, Instagrammable, more natural places. And so, of course, during the pandemic, people could not leave Korea as easily, and they also didn't necessarily want to leave. So that caused the domestic travel to increase. And recently, people have been really focusing internally on Korea's culture. So people will book places like staying at a traditional Korean house, and there's even been like collaborations between Airbnb and districts that have these traditional Korean houses. Traveling in Korea is very convenient because of the high-speed rail system. And then also another popular area is Jeju Island, which is Korea's very own little tourist destination that has all the shopping, but also all of the nature, and it has all 4 seasons and a lot of the local food and local produce that doesn't necessarily grow in other places. So one key word that you want to know about Korea's travel market is hokkangsu. So it's hotel plus the word vacation in French, but my pronunciation in French is terrible, so I'll just stick with the Korean, but it's hokkangsu. So that's basically a vacation in a hotel. So these are some of, along with hokkangsu, some of the other like trending travel topics are like going to more natural places and camping anywhere outside, and especially since COVID. So COVID really launched like the outdoor camping trend, but then it's kind of here to stay. Also with hokkangsu, we can talk a little bit more about that, but it's very popular because it's considered to be very hygienic. Like people don't want to, especially during COVID, people don't want to go out and mix with too many people. It's very popular for families, and then so oftentimes hokkangsus are like themed, and the top theme is unsurprisingly mukgangsu, so a vacation in a hotel for eating. And then there's also poolgangsu, so poolgangsus, that's where the destination is surrounded by where it is cool to swim. So what hotels have the coolest pool? And so this is like a really unique trend to follow for the travel market, and it creates a lot of opportunities in partnering with hotels to see how you can tap into this trend. And we can't pass over the topic of Korea's attractiveness as a destination for international travelers. Korea's Hallyu, the Korean wave, really draws in a ton of travelers, not only from other East Asian countries, but from all over the world. One of those things is K-pop. And so a lot of people will travel to Korea in order to take K-pop and K-hip hop dancing classes, and they even have studios that offer these classes in English. Also important is Korea's medical tourism. So this is not only cosmetic surgeries like eyes, nose, and the V-line, which is very popular among Chinese travelers, but also more serious treatments like cancer treatment or even organ transplants may take place in Korea for travelers. And so now, as the world is opening back up and Koreans are looking outward to travel again, these are some of the most popular countries that Koreans are looking at. And it hasn't changed a ton since before the pandemic. Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, and then outside of Asia, the United States is the top choice. What's amazing is that 59% are considering international travel within a year already. And so that's a pretty quick bounce back. And Koreans are going to be a big significant part of the travel market. And so for younger travelers, one thing that's really in is longer tourism stays and working holidays. So these travelers, they want to get more in-depth understanding of different cultures. It's a true life experience for them. And so countries that offer working holidays are going to be very popular for young Koreans, and also places that offer longer stays. So there's going to be less a focus on tour groups for younger people and more focus on independent travel, where they can really make their way in new countries, engage with the local culture more, learn local languages, and eat local food. And lastly, as everything is going digital nowadays, so is travel. And this is called land traveling in Korean. And some content on social media, like shared about travel places, lots of cool videos. Blogs are very popular in Korea, with videos being the #1. When in a survey by Good Choice, 4 out of 10 Koreans enjoyed traveling online. So this has not only arisen as something to do during COVID, but it's also stayed as kind of a source of entertainment and maybe inspiration for future travelers. Additionally, virtual reality has become a part of Korea's travel, so that people can experience things like museums, or when they go to museums, they can experience travel through virtual reality. So I'll let Min take the microphone back, and he'll cover some case studies. Now's your final chance to ask some of your questions if you have any, and I'll let Min take control so that he can share his screen.
Okay. Thank you, Allison. Okay, so just to wrap up, we prepared some case studies of some very recent research consulting projects we completed in the Korean market. Very relevant research scope and objectives based on the topics that we covered today. So for instance, this client was confidential, is a premium skincare brand from Europe, and they had a strong presence already in the Kakao Gift platform, but they came to us to understand how can they sustain this leading position. What are the competitors are doing? Where is the gap? What are some products and promotion that they need to maintain? What do they need to renew? What do they need to develop to sustain this position? So this research consisted of doing a competitor benchmarking, understanding the platform, some new trends, and our recommendation was provided to the client to give an action plan to which items they need to maintain, which products they should develop on this platform. So as you can see, most of the case studies here are based on the industries that are thriving in the Korean market, so such as fashion, beauty, entertainment, gaming, and so on. So this client, non-confidential, Farfetch, as you may, most of you guys know, is the online luxury shopping platform. So we do consumer study as well. So we did UX research of actual shoppers from a brand listed on Farfetch. Clarins, luxury cosmetic skincare brand from France. We did training on e-commerce in Korea as well as Chinese market. And we also do research in the Chinese market where we help Korean brands enter the Chinese market. So here we work together with the Ministry of Science and ICT, help finding Korean startups and helping them what is their go-to-market strategy for the Chinese market. And Ubisoft, if you're a gamer, you probably know Ubisoft very well. It was for our research was to help them how to enhance, optimize their gaming platform, which is Uplay. So if you're a gamer, you probably heard of Steam, but Ubisoft has its own platform, Uplay. So we help to how they could better localize, optimize the platform for the Korean gamers. Yeah, as we do have a lot of testimonials for your reference. Yeah, and I think we do have some questions.
Yes. So
yeah,
I can share some of the questions, and maybe we can just keep this slide up for now so people will know who to contact if they have more questions. So one of the questions I think might be good for Min to answer. So it's, do you think the move from Kakao to Telegram and Line will be an ongoing trend that should be a concern for brands? So I'm also curious to add, like, do you think as Kakao had that shutdown that you mentioned, how is that impacting the loyalty of Koreans to use Kakao Talk?
So yeah, this is the first and only time that this let's call it a blackout, that this is the longest blackout that ever happened to Kakao. So not just Messenger app, but also Kakao Gift, Kakao Bank, Kakao Navigation, Kakao Taxi, all of this were shut down. So you could imagine if you are a very loyal user to Kakao ecosystem, you probably thought like there's a nuclear war or something, that everything's shut down. So from users' perspective, they did realize that they cannot rely on one provider entirely. So as I mentioned, many users actually shifted towards Line Messenger or Telegram. They have very little market share in Korea. Line is obviously very big in Taiwan and Japan, but not at all in Korea. But still, people still need to find a way to talk. So users shifted. From brands' perspective, I think Kakao also realized that their dominance cannot be sustained, even though this could be just a short-term thing. Loyal users still use Kakao Gifts, Kakao Talk, Kakao Messenger, Kakao Gift, but still, they need to do more. People were questioning Kakao Talk. They have so many data centers, but how come just one data center having a fire accident have such an impact? Because also other brands, other apps were also using the data center. So I think Naver were also using it, but they didn't have a problem. So definitely from their side, they need to find more backups, how to fix the problem quickly, so it doesn't become as a big news. And from users, they need to find more backups, not to just rely on one player. Okay, we do have some more questions. I think we have a question about, is smoking big in Korea? For the main competitors? So yeah, smoking is relatively very big. As you know, Korea is a drug-free country, so many people, what can they resort to? Basically, alcohol. So that's why Korea has a very high alcohol consumption, as well as cigarettes. As for the main competitors, it's still the big players from the States. But still, there are a lot of Korean brands. They do exceptionally well. But then again, if you're in Korea, not many people are going for the traditional cigarettes, right? So they're more going for the what we call in Korea we call it 전자담배, which literally means electronic cigarettes. So you probably know it's a global thing. Yeah, so e-cigarettes is also very big in Korea. Also, we have another question. What trends in fintech can you note? So also global thing. So as you may know, metaverse is also very big in Korea. A lot of firms, startups are also jumping into, I think it's NFTs, right? So many companies are jumping into it too, but still not that developed. I think in terms of metaverse, Korea is, I think, quite ahead. I think one of the first countries to really engage in that. But yeah, not so much yet. But for fintech, I think Kakao, as I mentioned before, Kakao Messenger, they do more than Messenger app. So they do have Kakao Bank, Kakao Finance. So it's not as centralized as China, whereas you know, China says, okay, everyone do Alipay, everyone does WeChat Pay, and every brand's merchants leverages it. But in Korea, not many merchants or brands or retailers have access to Kakao Bank yet. Now if you're in Korea, you can see many people using it, but still it can be improved. Other questions I had was regarding the K-beauty, regarding the vegan certification, vegan cosmetics. So the question was, is there a clear guideline of what is classified as vegan cosmetics? Yes, I'll say last year it wasn't as clear as before, but basically the Korean FDA, so Food and Drug Administration, I think equivalent Korea is called Ministry of Food and Drug Safety. So they have listed out very clear definition of what ingredients are classified as vegan. And basically you can see the ingredients. And as a brand, you need to renew this every year. It doesn't cost much, but you just have to renew it to maintain the certification. Other question I had was regarding the fragrance market. Interested to know about how the fragrance market is in Korea. So very similar to skincare industry, where instead of most of the big players, where back in the days it was always the big brands, big players, but as I told you guys, the big brands, even the fashion companies, are now sourcing for indie brands. So these are startup brands, small companies. They have very unique packaging, unique ingredients. Very similar things happening in the fragrance market. So in Korea, we call it niche fragrance. So no longer the popular like Chanel or Dior perfumes are popular. I mean, they're still popular, but the growing scene is niche brands. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of select stores where it's an experience. It's an offline space where it offers a lot of experience. So it carries many indie brands. Some are local, or some are like the merchandisers would go to France and find indie brands and source it back to Korea, and they list it as their brand. So this is a growing trend in Korea for the fragrance market. A lot of niche brands, where, as I told you, MZ generations, they're no longer looking for the traditional. They want to find brands that are unique, that can resonate with their persona. So this is also notable in the fragrance market.
So that just about summarizes it for today. We weren't able to get to all of the questions because there was quite a few. However, like mentioned, you guys can always reach out to us. And we do have social media accounts as well. And so Min, if you don't mind going to the next slide, it should have how to follow us on social media. There's our WeChat. If you have a WeChat, I know it's not top priority for Korea, but we do publish our Korea content on WeChat as well, as many of our readers in China are very interested in it. Here's our LinkedIn and newsletter. Newsletter, we send out weekly updates, Instagram as well. And if you're from the press, we do have a specialized press release that goes out bi-weekly, and you can see that link at the bottom as well. So thank you everybody for attending our webinar today. We hope that it was very insightful. I think we had a lot to share, and we managed to finish in an okay time, but it's always great to be able to share these insights with our community. And so if you guys have any questions regarding content or regarding if you're curious to learn more about the Korean market or curious to know more catered information for your business, you can reach out to us at dx@daxueconsulting.com, or you can reach out to Min, myself, or Remy, whose contact was on the previous slide. Thank you guys all for attending.
Thank you all. And if any of you guys joined us late, we do have another session tomorrow, so you can learn. If you missed anything in the beginning, you can join us a bit earlier to see that part. So thank you all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen around the world. Stay in touch.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good job.